What's going on, everyone? We have to make a video here because the PlayStation Xbox exclusivity debate is coming back up again. It's all over Twitter too. And it's also about Xbox now flip-flopping with exclusivity. They can't give you a permanent direction on what they want to do, and they seem to be confused about what was obviously present to them in the past. And we're talking about what Asha Sharma is saying. And I think there's people behind her as well too that are still involved. Satya's involved, Bill Spencer's still involved in ways. A lot of people are slamming him lately too, which is kind of funny. So she says, when it comes to exclusivity, and I'm going to give my sense on this, we'll take a data-driven approach and a strategic-driven approach, and then we'll look at our principles and we'll make some calls. Them meaning that we will, and she's not doing this alone. I want to make the right decision. She wants to make the right decision, not the fastest decision. There's nothing wrong with that. I like her. I like what she's trying to do. But obviously people that realize stuff that didn't work are still mentoring in the back, along with Satya seeing things as well. So first of all, how can you afford to be exclusive? You do need an identity. You realize that Game Pass is your identity and being a strong publisher now. Your market is so dead because people are used to Game Pass day one and it's just tanked off. You don't have the install base to put an exclusive on there that will cost $200 million and think that the Xbox base is going to give you 10 million sales. Exclusive. If you're saying only on Xbox and not even Steam, yeah, no, because exclusive means that when I look at Nintendo, it's on the Switch too. When I look at PlayStation, it's only on PlayStation. It's not going to Steam. So if you're saying exclusivity, you can't put it on Steam, because you're trying to build the identity of only on Xbox. Just like Steam is not going to put Half-Life 3 on the Windows Store. You know what I mean? No, it's only going to be available on Steam. Same thing with like Dota and stuff like that. Though it needs the Windows platform, which is different because it doesn't have a console like that. But they're about to come with one. But my take on this is that you realize, and I've been saying in my videos, how important identity is. Cool, you went back to the Xbox logo. These are all things where I were like, you should have never done that anyways, because everything was just killing the identity. And then like, I want to rebrand, rebrand the logo and all that. That's cool and everything, but what people want to see are actual results. Because if you look at the recent sales, and we saw them, they were absolutely abysmal. You couldn't even sell 150,000 consoles in 1 month. Not even over 120. When the Switch 2 sold 1.76 million. If you include the Switch 1, it was 2 million sales across that for the Switch family for that month. PlayStation over 1 million for the whole March. So like when you look at that, it's like you can't afford to go exclusive if somebody's only buying that amount of consoles and your install base is under 30 million active on the Xbox consoles itself. Because if you barely hit 30 million and you weren't moving any consoles. So how could you afford to put exclusive on a market like that with under 30 million people active easily, probably 20? This has been so bad. And they're used to getting Game Pass day one. So they're looking to just go to Game Pass, which you now drop the price of. So that makes that more attractive. So that's going to make them want to stay on that even more and then play what they want to play and then just go to something else. You're going to find out when Forza drops, that's your biggest flagship title. That could probably sell 1 million on Xbox, maybe 2, right? But do you think that if you only had that exclusive there, that would move tons of consoles? That's the question here, is that can anything you make exclusive move hardware? Because in order for exclusives to work, they need to move hardware. And they need to sell a lot. And people need to want to buy games. So the data-driven approach is already there. All you need to do is take a look at history. You see, the interesting thing about PlayStation, because Sony has an ecosystem there that actually works, and there is no PlayStation Plus on PC or anything like that, is even when you look at games like Spider-Man 1, Last of Us, they sold like 90-some% on the PlayStation, though they were still on PC too. You see what I mean? Like, though I think that Astro Bot should have sold a little bit more, but that's not the point though. Ghost of Yote is going to get its sales. It'll be at probably 7-8 million by the end of this year. Sony's games sell a lot. That's why I'm saying that even though Sony shared some of its stuff with PC, it didn't really destroy PlayStation internally because they have a strong identity. And they don't put their services on other platforms. They share some of their games later, but they don't ever do it day and date. and they don't put their games on their own service that are only on their own platform day and date. That kills the market because you're conditioning people to just get on a service. And when you do that, you also tank your development because developers are comfortable about just putting stuff on a service like a buffet, and that doesn't make them perform at their highest. So you're going to have to raise up the development quality to where every Xbox game that you're launching must be like an 85 plus meta, and it's going to have to be attractive there on that console to where you could get to 50 something million sales. Then you're like, okay, I built my identity back up. But if you're doing that, then what's the point of the Helix going to PC then? You'll have to scrap that and say, no, this needs to be an Xbox exclusive. Then are you going to want to sell a next-gen console at $1,200, $1,300, $1,400? You see what I mean? There's a big problem here on Microsoft, and there's a lot of flip-flopping. First you said no exclusives, and you said, here you, then he comes out and says that, and then people realize that can't happen. Then it's like, here we go back to this again. I don't know. Something needs to change. So, but I like what she's trying to do. I don't have a problem with her. She's very humble. She's not rude. She's nice. She's trying to find a way to make something impossible work. And then she's going to realize how tough that job actually is. Because people say what they want about Phil Spencer. He went through the battle for like 12 or 13 straight years. If she would have been in that battle where he's at, do you really think it would have been better? You really have to know what you're doing. Going all across Japan, doing all that. I'm telling you. It's not what you think. This is after everybody already took all the licks. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying he didn't make mistakes. Obviously he did, yeah. But it ain't just all him. There was a lot of stuff to make that tango happen. Well, it was the development that was not good either. So, Cursed Teardrop says something interesting here, which I actually agree with. Exclusives will only work if us Xbox players buy games. Hey man, key word. If Microsoft said we're doing this and you were at least selling 3 to 4 million per game you dropped, and you were selling, 400,000 consoles, then you're kind of back to that game to where it kind of works and you could compete again with PlayStation, right? But it's like, no, that's not happening. Playing them through Game Pass isn't going to generate the revenue Microsoft wants. Yes, because it costs money to make that. How are you going to recoup the money back? First, you have to recoup the money back through the sales, and then you have to make profit so that you can continue to fund future games. Or otherwise, you're just taking more money from the Microsoft corporate pool. Satya's not going to like that. That was already a problem with Activision and losing $300 million with Call of Duty on Game Pass and jacking the price up on that. Then jacking the price up on the consoles multiple times. It's like, so yeah. If you're going to do that, then you cannot keep that price point. You're going to have to drop the price of the consoles by $100 right now. And subsidize. It's like you drop the Game Pass down, you're going to drop the price of the consoles, and then you're going to have to make those games exclusive, and you better test Forza. But guess what? That has to be on PC, right? It's like, I don't think if you release that Halo on Xbox, it's going to sell, because there's no multiplayer. Historically on Xbox, Halo always launched with multiplayer. You were kind of trying to cater to PlayStation. The guy put on the PlayStation t-shirt. And then it's like, yeah, now we got this future that we're in, and all of us want to get sales off of PlayStation because we can't get the sales on Xbox. You see what I mean by like the flip-flopping, where it's like your base is frustrated because it's confused, and it just feels like it doesn't have a solid ground to stand on and go forth. All I'm telling people right here is how to make it better, where it's like you need solidification. And of course you don't want to rush, like she said, and make those decisions because you can't. Because you will once again lose hundreds of millions of dollars if you don't get your sales. Then the layoffs are going to happen. So it's like, that would be the worst decision ever. I don't think you can afford to go exclusive like that. Now, if you wanted to try 3-month exclusivity on Xbox with PC, like including Steam, and not including PlayStation, and then seeing, yeah, we can't do this, we got to go to PlayStation now. I mean, you could possibly try that, but I don't know. You see what I mean? It's risky. It's not nothing that's easy to do, but the data is already there. Just go look at it. Look at the history and see what happened, even before you went on PlayStation, and see why Phil Spencer moved. In the Xbox One era, when you at least sold 58 million consoles, they're not going to buy games like that. It's just reality. We just got to be real here. Asha's next post, next Halo, new Fable, Gears E-Day, State of Decay 3 are available only on Xbox. That is going to be a disaster. You're going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars because it's too late in this generation. You would have to start off a new generation fresh trying that. because it's a new generation. But you already say, hell, it's just going to be a PC and it's going to be like $1,200, $1,500. Nobody's going to want to buy a console that expensive. So how would you get the install base? You see what I mean? This is just something to think about. And you got these people like just talking about like, oh man, exclusives are coming back and this is going to be this. I said, but you're not really thinking about the consequences of that. You have to be a strong publisher. You can't fail as that, because the exclusives would fail, then your publishing would just fail along with that. And you'd be left to Game Pass. So you can't afford to be like PlayStation and Nintendo anymore. That was actually correct, because it's like, it doesn't work. Not that I wouldn't want you to have an exclusive identity and sell millions of Xbox consoles to compete back with PlayStation and get in the ballpark. Hey man, that would be nice, right? But that's going to be incredibly tough. Because that was the game that Phil Spencer was actually playing before other people wanted to make it Microsoft Gaming the past few years and do all this other stuff and chase cloud and mobile, and the identity was already being lost with that, because it's like, you have to keep working on that. You can't ever just throw it away. And I think the damage is so big, it's hard to recover. To believe that out of nowhere, Xbox consoles will start selling millions of consoles a year. Like for the next few years, you would get like 15 million sales or whatever. I don't even know how that's going to be possible. The only way is if you get things ready and somehow a miracle happens with some exclusives or timed exclusives, and you drop the price of the consoles right now by $100, include 3 months of Game Pass in them, and get ready for that GTA 6 and try to get something going with that and having your exclusive identity. That's the only way I see that. I'm not even saying it's guaranteed to work, but it's more like, I think that would be the direction. But if you're going to do that, you have to put your consoles on sale, because you have to move units. You have to get an active install base. You have to bring a bunch of people back and move and sell just as much as PlayStation. You see what I'm saying? What other method would really work? Those consoles can't stay at that price. It's not going to work. People were hoping that the Series X would be $400, $450 by now, and the S would be like $250. If it's not going to be that or go back to 300, then it's going to be rough. So I want you guys to let me know what you think about that. Sony is fine. I mean, look at Soros and all that, because they never did that. They knew that was not smart. Sean Layden tried to warn people about that. Shuhei said the same thing. Just like, no, day and day on PC is not going to work. But Microsoft went ahead and did that, and they can afford to do that because they're a rich company. Now, Sony knows they can't afford to do that. Nintendo, same thing. Because Xbox is not even 5% of probably Microsoft. You know what I mean? It's pretty, small compared to the rest of the company. So yeah, guys, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. I had to really talk about this because, you can go down here and take a look at this, but it's really not much. It's just something that I think you need to be careful with, because you could end up losing hundreds of millions of dollars if you don't get those sales and have the active base. So yeah, later y'all. Let me know what you think.